Very good afternoon. Welcome to the Bridgeall Breakout. Starting off the session will be Stephen Beer, Managing Director, and joining him today is Jim Hamill. So, Stephen, over to you, please.
Hi there, Ray. Thanks very much. And good afternoon, ladies and gents, and thanks for joining us today. So my name is Stephen Beer. I'm Managing Director of Bridgeall. I'm looking forward to hosting this session today, which we do plan to run two ways concurrently. So the first will be an interactive discussion between Jim and I around the topic of organisations seizing the moment to build and evolve modern intelligent workplaces. And the second aspect is that we are encouraging for all of you to interact during the session with our team on any thoughts, opinions and questions you have via the chat forum. So manning the forum today is Ryan Chatham, our Head of Marketing, Graham McLean, our SharePoint and Microsoft 365 Practice Lead, and Ken Wilcox, our Head of Cloud and Support Services. So if there's anything you do want to add at all, any questions, and you want to pose to Jim, just click on the chat icon and enter the message, and that should be the chat icon rather than the Q&A icon. So I'm very pleased that we do have Dr. Jim Hamill on our session today. Jim has 35 years experience in international management education, has authored several books and numerous papers, and is focused on creating business leaders fit for purpose in this digital era. So Jim constantly keeps up to date on recent and ongoing developments here and globally on digital leadership and transformation, and he's got many insights to discuss. So again, as I say, very pleased that we've got Jim to lend us his insights today. And before we start the discussion, though, I'd just like to say a few words about Bridgeall, if I may. And Ryan, if you could pop up the slide for us. Thank you. So just so that you do have an understanding of who we are. So we're based in Glasgow. You know, we've been in business for 16 years. Our focus is very much on the Microsoft stack and helping our clients get the best of that very rich ecosystem that's out there. So we help companies define, build and support their modern intelligent workplace. And we provide managed IT services and support across all aspects of their estate. We're an 8 times gold partner, and I think we are the only one of them in Scotland. And we develop on a whole range of technology used on Microsoft, including Microsoft Power Platform, .NET, and we implement, Windows Virtual Desktop and a whole range of, Microsoft technology. So we're an Azure Cloud Services partner and also ISO 9000 qualified. So that's kind of the pitch over, if you like. Very pleased to sponsor DT2020. And if you haven't had a chance to visit our stand today, then I encourage you to do that after the session. So without further ado, I'll move on to our first discussion point. So the first question to Jim is, what are your thoughts, Jim, in terms of where we are regarding the pandemic, recovery, and more generally, the topic of digital transformation?
Okay, Stephen, thank you. So you've started with an easy one. Thanks for inviting me along today. Thanks to everyone who's attending the session. Thanks to Ray and his team. I think the way in which Digit have pivoted online in the last 7 months has been absolutely fascinating to watch, and I think it's an inspiration for all of us. Just to reiterate Stephen's comment about the chat forum, please do feel free. Apart from the slide that Stephen's just shown, this is going to be a PowerPoint free session today, so we're hoping to keep it informal. So feel free to chat amongst yourself on the forum. In terms of Stephen's question, where are we? There's absolutely no doubt at all that COVID has been a wrecking ball, and there is just simply no return to business as usual. There is no return to the way we have always done things around here, whether you're in education or manufacturing or the public sector. What's also becoming increasingly clear to me is that this term that people use, the new normal. I'm not quite sure what that actually means. Now, the only normal for me, Stephen, is a sustained, prolonged period of uncertainty and volatile change. And the implication of that for organisations in terms of what we're going to talk about today is that organisations need to make sure that their technology infrastructure is resilient enough to support that organisation through that prolonged period of uncertainty. On a positive note, and I think this is where a lot of the discussion will go today, one of the major impacts of COVID to me is that it has unfrozen a lot of the past constraints and barriers and obstacles to transformational change. Some of us have been arguing the case for transformation for some number of years now, and COVID has blown a hole right through a lot of the previous barriers to change. So in my view, it has given us a once in a lifetime opportunity to really transform the way we do things, and building what we call the modern intelligent workplaces that are going to be required for survival, growth and competitiveness in the new economy. And the evidence is now overwhelming that those organisations who are going to survive and prosper in the new economy will be organisations who leverage the full potential of technology to basically do three things. First of all, to support the way that they engage with their customers, to enhance the customer experience, whether you're public sector or private sector. Secondly, those organisations who leverage the full potential of technology to reimagine how they operate internally in terms of streamlining, automating processes. And thirdly, and we're already seeing examples of this, organisations who use technology to reinvent their underlying business model. So hopefully that's given some ideas, Stephen, of where I'm coming from here.
Yes, so I understood, Jim, and again, I concur with a number of things you've mentioned there. We see how customers are coping, coping with COVID. It has been a massive wrecking ball, as you say, but it has given some of them opportunity to actually reassess their position, their legacy applications, and actually work out how they can adapt to that more quickly. So we have helped customers taking their, not sometimes first steps, but often it is first steps on more modern platforms to be more efficient and more capable of dealing with what's been thrown at them. So yeah, thanks for that, Jim. So the second one, so in your experience, Jim, turning to Scotland, are Scottish companies in the public sector ready to seize the moment? And if so, what needs to be done? If so, or if not, what needs to be done?
Are we ready to seize the moment? Yeah, again, very interesting question. One would hope so. One would hope so. But there are still barriers there that we'll discuss in a moment. One thing I've heard a lot about already in the conference this morning is the shift and the pivot to becoming more digital. And that's obviously true across a whole range of sectors. But the question I keep asking myself, Stephen, is it's one thing pivoting online or pivoting digital, but are we actually transforming anything? And I would use the industry that I've spent most of my career in, the higher education sector, as an example of that. It is easy enough to pivot to delivering lectures online, but a 3-hour online lecture is still a 3-hour lecture, whether it's delivered online or offline. And are we actually transforming things? I think for organisations, in terms of seizing the moment and where we are at the moment, I think organisations need to think about two things simultaneously here. First of all, as I said earlier, it's becoming obvious that we are going to face a prolonged period of uncertainty. So the first stage is to protect and build resilience. So a lot of our organisations have got through kind of the first lockdown, we've moved to flexible remote working, but that's at a time where we've had a lot of people on furlough. So as people come off furlough and remote flexible working becomes more or less a permanent fixture, do we have the technology that's robust enough to support that? Do we have, you know, I've heard it explained, do we have the technology that's robust enough to support a shift from one office with 500 or 5,000 people in it to 5,000 or 500 different offices spread across the country? The second thing, and this is more building towards the future, is simultaneously to trying to maintain operations, we need to accelerate our journey towards becoming modern, intelligent, innovative workplaces by embedding technology at the core of everything that our organisation does to streamline, automate processes, to reduce costs, become agile, fast-moving, because that's the type of organisation that will survive and prosper in an increasingly volatile and uncertain world. So are we ready to seize the moment? We'll look at maybe some of the barriers in a moment, but to me, one of the major challenges here, Stephen, is a leadership challenge.
Yes. Yeah, again, come on that in a moment. We'll come on to that, Jim. So thanks for that. I think I would again concur with what you're saying there. You know, in terms of the resiliency, you know, we've seen, everybody's seen, you know, many organisations just jumping to it, you know, and being able to manage their workforce, or have their workforce from home operating. You know, I think we're seeing, you know, more inquiries around resilience and security in terms of making that even, you know, tighter and harder, if you like. They've had capability, but they need, you know, more permanent and more secure capability. So we're seeing some of that. We're certainly seeing streamlining and reinventing processes, and you know, Power Platform, for example, is something that's we use and helps our organisations move forward. So, but you know, despite everything else that's going on, we do see budget being made available, you know, for these particular areas. So, you know, I'm pretty encouraged by, you know, the foresight that we see in a number of our clients. So I just wanted to check in with Ryan. Ryan, is there anything coming forward here that you want, that maybe we need to pose or should pose to Jim or anything?
Yeah, there's a great question from Bill around, should we be talking about digital transformation or should we be talking wider about just transformation, and what is focusing on tech, constraining the opportunities available to organisations?
Yeah, I'll answer that very quickly, Ryan, and thanks Bill for posing the question. Personally, Bill, I stopped using the term digital transformation some time ago, and I tend to use the term digital supported transformation. And the reason for that, and I was actually going to make this comment later, but I may as well make it now. Having the right technology and software, the digital tools in place is obviously absolutely critical. Yeah, there's no doubt at all about that. But successful transformation, Bill, is, and I know you'll agree with this, raises a much wider range of issues relating to organisation, processes, systems, people, culture, leadership, and so on. So I think it's a fair comment you make, Bill. I think the term digital supported transformation identifies that it's not just about technology. There's a range of non-technology factors which are critical here as well.
Okay. Anything more at the moment, Ryan? Okay, that's fine. So in terms of the third question, Jim, and again, building what you've said there, given that the genie is truly out of the bottle in terms of new ways of working, what needs to be done in your view, and how can we progress rapidly in this area?
Yeah, I think the first thing that needs to be done, Stephen, and it's really a repetition of my answer to Bill's question, I think we do need to understand that transformation is not just about digital, as important as that is, that it's really the integration of strategy and organisation, culture and technology, and non-technology issues are as equally important as technology issues. And I think once we get a grasp of that, then we start to move forward here. We are entering uncharted waters here. I think there is growing momentum and growing enthusiasm for change, because people have learned from their experiences in the last 7 months. I think we do need to be aware of what's becoming obvious now. It's known as change fatigue. That, as every speaker has mentioned already today, this has been one hell of a year for everyone, and we're all getting tired. So to me, the way forward for me is that transformation, I think, takes place through small agile teams working on projects that deliver return on investment in months rather than years. And I think we need to move away from the kind of big bang transformation agenda to looking at how we can achieve transformation in a more kind of incremental way. A useful starting point for organisations, and this is something I would encourage every organisation to do on a continuous basis, but it's absolutely critical now, is to undertake what I call a digital dexterity audit, which is really an audit of that organisation's preparedness for transformation. And that audit should cover both technology and non-technology aspects, Stephen.
Yeah. Again, you know, what you've said resonates a lot with me. You know, for a firm like Bridgeall, you know, we've got access to a very wide, rich and growing ecosystem. And okay, specific for Microsoft, but there's other providers out there that we build and deploy on. So we've never, you know, in our existence, never had a technology problem that we couldn't solve. We have, however, seen projects fail to start or even falter because of non-technology issues. So we've seen enough of those to advise clients that we feel they've not yet got the key non-technology aspects in place, and work with them to do some of that assessment beforehand.
Yeah.
If they want us to do that, to make sure things are in place to get success. Okay, so thanks for that one, Jim. So in terms of that type of audit, that digital dexterity audit that you mentioned there, what in your view should be covered in that type of thing?
Yeah, okay, I'll try and keep my answer to this as short as possible, Stephen, because there are a few things coming through in the chat forum here that maybe Ryan wants to pick up on. The digital dexterity audits that we've been involved with tend to cover about 10 issues, so I don't intend to go through 10 bullet points here, but they fall into a number of categories. The first one is, does your organisation have a clear vision and strategy of where it wants to go? Now that's pretty self-evident. Without that, then you don't know what road you're taking. I think the audit then needs to look at the 3 areas we mentioned earlier. So what progress has been made in terms of using digital to support the customer, what progress has been made internally, what progress has been made in reinventing the underlying business model. And the gap there between where you are and where perhaps you should be or could be provides a very strong foundation for future strategy development. And then you've got what I would call the technology and software and data aspect, all the things that Bridgeall are expert in terms of, you know, is our infrastructure resilient enough to support transformation? What about the cloud? We've got Ken on the chat forum today. What about the security? Security aspect is absolutely enormous here. Software collaboration tools. One thing that excites me in particular is the emergence of low-code development tools such as the Microsoft Power Platform. And if anyone's interested in that, we are running a session on that tomorrow. And finally, there's all the non-technology aspects. Yeah, we might have the technology in place, or we might not have the technology in place. But what about our organisational structure? What about our culture? What about our people? And what about the leadership in our organisation? Do we have the leaders who can support that transformation?
Yeah, and again, you've mentioned in the conversations to me before, empowered change agents. You know, those leaders who, you know, who take or assume the power, you know, responsibility to make that change. Again, resonating with us, we see that working very successfully with clients where people do, you know, have a sponsor sometimes, but actually do take the organisation forward and lead. The kind of small agile teams, that works very well. You know, again, working in an agile manner has delivered many great projects for us.
I think to me, Stephen, the role of leadership here is to empower people, not necessarily to direct everything. And you know, I'm like you, small agile teams of digital change agents, you know, people working in the front line who know better how things can be improved, I think is the way forward.
Yeah, most definitely. And Ryan, have any other points that worth?
Yeah, a couple of questions came through. So one from Walter for Jim. Can you explain what you mean by a modern intelligent workplace? Maybe just expand on it a little bit.
Right. Okay, a modern intelligent workplace is a work, to me, Walter, is a workplace that leverages the full potential of technology to become agile, responsive, fast moving, etc. But combines that with a digital culture and a leadership that is conducive to change. So it's the combination of technology and those non-technology. The intelligent aspect, Walter, is really relating to the organisation's use of data and how that organisation uses data to deliver actionable insights that lead to data-driven or data-based decision making.
Excellent. We have one more question from Gary. So Gary asked that you talked about some of the challenges facing sort of digital supported transformation. How have those challenges evolved over the last few years, or how has sort of COVID changed those challenges?
Good question, Gary. Those barriers have always been there. And I think there's growing recognition now. In fact, there's an excellent book published last year on this. The main barriers to transformational change are non-technology barriers. You know, we've got the technology, we've got companies like Bridgeall that can work with organisations and make sure the infrastructure and the software is there. To me, the main barriers are non-technology barriers, the organisation, the people, the culture, and in my view, it's a leadership challenge. Now, how has COVID impacted on that? And this is actually a good point to draw a halt here, given the time. My hope is that COVID has blown a hole right through those non-technology barriers and created a momentum for change. Whether that is the case, only time will tell, but I just do not think there is any way we can return to business as usual. So hopefully, Gary, we've got a massive opportunity here to move forward.
Yeah.
Sorry, Stephen.
Okay, no, that's fine, Jim. That's getting towards the end of our session here, but just to maybe kind of try and conclude and bring a few threads together. You know, I think what's been said today is obviously not new to many people, but COVID-19 has certainly highlighted major deficiencies in what's known as kind of industrial age approaches to organisational technology, management and leadership. At the same time, you know, this pandemic has unfrozen constraints of the past, the routines, the habit and the traditional, and you know, the kind of standard ways of doing things around here. So it has frozen it, and that means that there are opportunities ahead. There's no getting away from it. There's going to be challenges. There's very rich ecosystems out there to help companies build their modern, intelligent workplaces, and there are companies like Bridgeall here to help them along the way. Again, we would stress, making sure you're ready to transform. There's a readiness in place by taking some time out to assess. Is something that should be, certainly is a good starting point. And the other wee final point I would just state, and Jim's mentioned that we do have a Power Platform webinar tomorrow, which is already pretty popular, and we've got quite a number of people signed up for that. So if there's any of you out there who are interested to understand what Microsoft are bringing forward in this low-code platform, which they promote as a kind of citizen developer platform, but it does have plenty of space for pro developers like us to do quite more complex things in it. And then I would encourage you to go onto our website and sign up for that. So it should be a very informative session. And again, final point would be if anybody needs any assistance from Bridgeall, then more than happy to speak to anybody. So our stand's going to be open until mid-afternoon. If you want to go along there and speak to anybody virtually, then we'll be pleased to have you. So I think that concludes the session, just 1 minute over, and hopefully you can enjoy your lunch. Thank you very much.
Right, thanks everybody for attending. Thank you, and for your questions on the chat forum.